Welcome to 3 Ways to Create Multimedia Domination with the Multiplicity-preneur Factor Part 3. I am AliNICOLE, wow, she does it all. Once again, I am serving as the Chief Multiplicity-preneur Pioneer, and I am joined by the Multiplicity Moundbuilder, Joseph L. Jones Jr. We are the founders of the Multiplicity Monument Empires and also the Multiplicity Marketplace Media Tours, and you can learn more about our individual and collective works in this area below in the description. So I just want to welcome Joseph back to being with me to share more on this particular topic. Joseph, thank you again for being here.
I am honored to be here and very happy to be participating in this episode of Media Domination.
Oh, thank you. I'm very excited about the continuation, of this. And before we get started in today's content and that rendering, I want to just provide a recap of part one and part two. I'm not going to get into detail, but I just want to share what was covered so that it just helps to build upon, lay the foundation for where we are going to go today. So, in part one, we shared about create a multi-dimensional branding and empire expression with your media presence, um, focused on set your brand and empire up for revenue recognition, and then also create a multimedia domino multiplicity marketing effect. In part two, we shared about multimedia domination marketplace mindset with multiplicity and multimedia domination multiplicity mission. It's important to have that. And multimedia multiplicity domination money model. So definitely have to have those. And so I want to provide three more important factors today. But before I share these, Joseph, would you like to share anything on what's been shared previously to set others up for today's rendering? Anything that you feel is most important about those six components that can lead into today?
Well, what's most important is that people go back and listen to both part one as well as part two,
Yes.
because they are absolute treasures in
Mhm.
terms of building your business and dominating in your industry. And just to give a little hint, I would pay particular attention to the three M's.
And in case you don't know what he's talking about, that's from part two. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Yes, those three M's, and there are certainly tons more, of those that I actually share in a publication. But and who knows, we may actually get into some of those at some point, within this series. So thank you so much, Joseph. I appreciate that. I knew that you would have kind of that stepping stone to help transition into this segment today, and also, like you said, what is most where they need to be most aware and pay attention to, and rinse and repeat and go back over that. So I'm going to go ahead and share the three for this particular session here. And so the first one that builds upon everything that has been shared so far is about now designing a multiplicity lifestyle and business makeover model to create success structures for multimedia domination. This is really, really important. A lot of what I'm going to be sharing today will seem like, um, they should be like the first things that are put in order. But there's a reason why the order is like it is. And Joseph, something I know you'll appreciate me saying really quick, especially based off of your mound building pyramid, is that what most people believe should be the first order of business actually is more so in the middle part, and you can't actually get to these other um, the other aspect until the foundation is laid and built upon, um, and momentum, is there in that area. So it
Hmm.
sometimes seems like things are out of order, but they're actually in, the perfect order for how you actually get to certain stages. So this particular aspect here is, this is about setting up your lifestyle and business success structures. It will feel more like renovating and making over your current lifestyle and business agenda, um, so that your lifestyle is actually the leader and not the business. And you have to know, what you truly, desire, and what you would like to design as your, ideal lifestyle for entrepreneurship, because lifestylepreneurship is really what it's really what it's about. There needs to be a cohesiveness there, but your life actually needs to be, um, the chief vehicle, the primary leader. So designing a multimedia roadmap to leverage the media as your multifaceted, business, expression continues to emerge. So 3 R's that are something that I leverage is, it is a continuation sometimes before you get to a certain point of, reconstructing, repositioning, and then relaunching anew as a multiplicity lifestyle-preneur. And this lifestyle-preneurship, has, authority of this higher livelihood. So when you are in that aspect of the multiplicity-preneurship aspect, the lifestyle-preneur, yes, you have authority of your livelihood. That's why the lifestyle is the leader, and it's not the actual business, taking over everything. And so the reason why this is important is because if you want, to be effective, because honestly, you can't be effective in leading and dominating in the media or anything if you actually aren't leading and dominating in your life and have that divine order, because you have to have that. And because if you don't have the order and the structures within your livelihood to support the other initiatives, then you certainly can't dominate in the multimedia space. So in this type of expansion, as you're designing the multiplicity life and, business, makeover model, you, as I mentioned, become this lifestyle-preneur, but also you become a lifestyle authority-preneur, which, I mean, that is vital for, success to be a multimedia, let's say, dominationpreneur, if you will, because honestly, that's my embodiment is everything is under the all around preneurship. It has a preneurship to it, and not just the standard, component. So I'm not just dominating; it's part of my preneurship. So I'm a dominating preneur, as well, which means that has a business model with it. It's got a whole structure that is supported, but it starts with this foundational premise as it relates to your lifestyle. You have to be an authority of yourself and of your life in order to be able to facilitate something, of this magnitude. So, the next one, I'll go on because I can spend time on, so many of these concepts talking about a lot of different dimensions and aspects of it. But the next one is design a multiplicity multimedia domination task and time management system. Now, Joseph and I have had some trainings, on this particular area. This is highly important. Prioritizing effectively is, I can't emphasize this enough. It is vital. It is so, important. And being able to have an effective, task management system, it really is the bloodline. I mean, it is vital to, the overall success and well being of just your endeavors and your initiatives. So, your whole entrepreneurial experience, so to speak, um, can rise and fall on this very aspect. So, as a multiplicity entrepreneur, the one thing you don't want to happen is that you don't ever want to get into a state of overwhelm by not having the right systems in place or not managing your multimedia agenda accordingly. So when the whole concept around being able to diversify, and that's something that Joseph and I, you will hear us chronically talk about this, diversifying. So when you're diversifying and multiplying, maximizing and monetizing several areas of your expertise, you want to make sure that you focus on what we call the main thing in the moment. And that's how you achieve a multiplicity domination, sort of carry out a master plan with this. So I do a lot of master planning, as it relates to this, because you have to have that focus. Your focus can't be in too many different areas. And even though you are multifaceted in your multiplicity, but in the time when you want to be strategic, or there's a time where you need to focus on the next best step for implementation, then you want to just zero in and focus on the main thing. And that main thing is kind of the multiplicity domination. That is the main thing. And what happens is that when you start to focus in that area, then you receive the insights and wisdom on how to achieve the multiplicity domination that plays out in the master plan. And then again, that insight, it shows you how to prioritize, how to simplify, how to organize, how to harmonize, and ultimately be able to systematize with this cohesiveness. And this is how you start to leverage your time and your tasks. And then what's most important is from this is that you show up at the right times and in the right ways in the media, because that's critical. It's just like you got to be able to go where the fish are biting. You just can't be just out there at, anytime just doing X, Y, and Z, throwing spaghetti up against the wall. When you are in a time management system, which is operating really in this divine timing spectrum, so to speak, and you are focused on your main thing of the multiplicity-preneur domination, effect, then as I mentioned, your execution plan, it will unfold and you will show up and make your moves, like I said, at the right time. But it is in the everyday things that you're doing. If you can't have authority over time, have good time stewardship, and have your tasks prioritized, you will never be able to make moves that other people can and be successful. You won't be able to do it at a high level because you haven't mastered the mundane just within the space that you have in your everyday life. That's where you're building the momentum, is in your practices in business and lifestyle. Okay, I'm getting in there because I can, like I said, I can talk about each of these on so many different levels. So let me move forward. So the last one, which is going to absolutely seem like it is the most important, and it certainly is. But again, there's a reason why it is positioned where is positioned within how I'm presenting it. So the last one for today is about designing a spiritually aligned multiplicity-preneur model for achieving, listen at this, multimedia sovereignty and divine dominion as a brand and empire. So I am going to repeat that. This is about designing a spiritually aligned multiplicity-preneur model for achieving multimedia sovereignty and divine dominion as a brand and an empire. Because when you are able to pull these types of dominations and overtakings off, it is like an impossible achievement. But in order to do the impossible, you must first be connected to the source that makes all things possible. We learn in Luke 18:27 that things which seem impossible to man are made possible with God. So let me let you in on this. I never attempt to do any disruption, demonstration, or domination by way of an ultimate takeover, so to speak, without leveraging a higher dimension of God or source power. And if you know anything about my branding and the foundational premises of my empire, AliNICOLE, wow, she does it all media empires, is that my entire brand and business frameworks are the unlocked encodings of the evolution of the Bible experience. And this is in a non religious and um, uninstitutionalized format, but meaning every concept, every master plan, every executionary form of implementation can only operate at the highest capacity through having this type of spiritually aligned multiplicity model that allows me to ultimately demonstrate this I am power of brand and also what I call business sovereignty beingness and divine, having that divine dominion in across a functionality format by way of the spiritually aligned, multiplicity-preneurship. So I'm just going to say this, like your brand and your business empire, what I know to be true is that it is encoded, all right, to bring forth an expression that no eyes have seen, no ears have heard. And this happens in order for you to defy, especially what the traditionalists say, because they say that it's impossible in the marketplace as an entrepreneur, to bring forth this entrepreneurial experience that allows you to leverage several of your talents, skills, and expertise in order to do again what Joseph and I teach: diversify, multiply, maximize, and monetize as a multiplicity-preneur. So this right here is the vital, aspect, the chief cornerstone is that you have to be operating in a higher dimension of awareness, a higher vantage point in spiritual alignment to be able to do and demonstrate what everyone says that it's impossible to do that. And that's why for me, when my domination effect takes place in it seems unbelievable. And even for me, even though I've done it several times, it's just to witness it is just, this is totally an act of God on a completely different level because it just happens in ways that just seem to be, you can't even wrap your mind around it. And that's why for me, life is one big wow continuously. It is the wow that gives birth to another wow that gives birth to another wow. So this is how you start to do high level disruption, demonstrations, and dominations to be able to, overtake in in your primary industries. And this is a soul's evolutionary experience, so to speak. And it is meant to be brought about in, this unique expression. So these are the ones that I wanted to share for this particular session. So Joseph, I know once again I've said quite a bit here, but I definitely would love to hear your thoughts before I share some helpful resources.
You have indeed shared quite a bit, though that is a phenomenal model. And just to
Oh,
think
thank
that
you.
it's only three, but it's a phenomenal pack three model of ways and means to really begin to take authorship, as you say, of
Mhm.
your business. And in the word authorship is the word author, which means that
Mhm.
you began to create and design and build your business, obviously based on these three things that you mentioned. Starting with that multiplicity makeover model.
Mm.
The thing about that one is, and that's important for business owners to understand, is the reason why something has to be made over
Mhm.
is because what has existed in the past is not serving very well in this time. So it's
Right.
calling forth something different. It has to
Mhm.
be made over. And
Mhm.
that's key
Mhm.
because you look at traditional models and traditional ways of doing things, they get to a point where they have served their usefulness
Yes. Yes.
and they've maxed out, and you really can't get much more out of it. So it has to be made over. Something has to be done differently.
Right.
And that's where we are right now in history. So
Mm-hmm.
that one really speaks to where we are right now. And of course, you have to have your time management in place and make sure
Mm-hmm.
that you're appropriating the right effort to the right things in order
Yes,
to be successful and to dominate.
absolutely.
But that last one, talking about the spiritual alignment, that's
Mm-hmm.
key because
Yes,
that's the one that brings it all together. In fact, all
right.
of the others emanate from
Yes.
that space.
Mm-hmm.
First is the alignment, then all of the other things kind of fall into place.
That's right.
That's kind of sort of the seek ye first the kingdom,
That's
and then
it.
all the
That's
other
right.
things will be added unto you. The one
Uh-huh.
and the two is the added, but that number three is the place where you really want to get grounded
Absolutely.
because then the first two become easy once
Mm-hmm.
you're aligned.
Yes.
Alignment is the key. And I thought you brought that
Mm-hmm.
out very, very well in
Oh,
terms of
thank you.
modeling. Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. Um, I'm going to have to co-sign with you in terms of, yes, the order and how that is really the key because everything else does hinge upon that, so to speak. And the reason why, again, the way that the content or the concepts came to give them in this order is because just like something I mentioned in one of the other um, sessions segments is that in order even for your mind to be renewed for something, there has to be something that's coming in for the renewance, right? And
Hmm.
so, even with hearing these different concepts, before we can start to spiritually align from a model perspective, there has to be some type of information or different things that have come forth to start bringing forth that alignment. Because the first initial alignment is that there's already an alignment if people are feeling called and drawn to this. That's the first order of it. But they don't know what to do, where to get started. They just know that they were guided to this type of experience. Now, once entering into this type of experience, now here are the things that you are going to have to think differently about. And here are, yeah, you're going to have to see some things that you may be familiar with new eyes. You get another understanding. That's where the higher perspective comes in and leveraging this higher, what I just call a higher dimension, of God, source power. It brings forth this newer spiritual alignment. And ultimately, even in reconstructing and makeover, in a sense, it really is still creating a new creation. It's not doing a new, improved version of something. It's not even rebuilding something. It actually is creating it anew. But the reason why it would feel like reconstruction and reorientation of that which is because, keep in mind, I mean, we are a human vessel here, and we have things that, as we get new awarenesses, there are some things that are going to be within our existence, but they are going to take on a different format, and it still is kind of, the same. Where versus if you go and replace something, so that's where kind of the reconstructing is like reconstructing a home, but ultimately making, renovating it to actually make it new and actually be something that it actually never has been before. And we have to be able to be the divine designers of our destiny and be the divine designers of, yeah, of what we're bringing about. No longer is it here's the master plan and you do this. No, we now are co-creative expressions and partnerships with the most high, but we have to be connected to the source in order to bring out this fuller demonstration. And that's where this spiritual alignment comes, and being able to have actual model that doesn't allow you to be on autopilot. You have to be connected continuously and leveling up to the source power in order to be able to do a domination, because it is a divine work. And that's been the biggest elephant in the room that
Hmm.
traditionalists have overlooked. They keep talking about what can't be done and why you shouldn't do it this way, but they're never factoring in the one that makes what seems to be impossible impossible. I mean, what seems to be impossible makes it him possible, makes it possible. Um, And so you got to get, I don't even want to say get back to the basics of some understandings, because this isn't really so much about a religious context, so to speak. But if you leverage just truth principles and bring them to their evolutionary state, and that's what this experience does. And anyone who is in the multiplicity um, preneur vibration, they're going to start demonstrating what seems to be impossible and continuously overtake, because again, traditionalists keep leaving out the very chief cornerstone and uh, just all the foundational premises that are going to make things work in this new era of expansion. So, Joseph, you know you can get me talking. Um, Jeez. um, yeah, you can get me talking. So I'm going to bring you back in to share, some closing words, but I want to share resources, because one of the things that Joseph and we love to do when we create any type of experience for others is not just give you what seems to be information um, that gives you revelation, but then never leads actually to the transformation once you leave from this experience. So we like to provide resources that you can take and be able to customize your own experience of leveling up in this way. So just even based on not just what we've talked about today, but other of the renderings, previously, I'm going to be sharing some of those resources as well. So a few publications that are on Amazon would love for you to explore, and we will also have links to these publications within the description box. So, we talked about the multiplicity lifestyle preneur factor, kind of today. And one of the publications is the Multiplicity Lifestyle-preneur factor is an intentional creation planner for designing a cohesive, multifaceted lifestyle business model. And then we talked about time management and task management. So we have the publication, The Main Thing, and it's an intentional task management planner for multiplicity entrepreneurs. And then we talked about the spiritual alignment as it relates to the multiplicity factor for domination. So another resource is the spiritually aligned multiplicity-preneur factor, the art of designing a multifaceted spiritual-based business creation planner. And then some of the other ones that were shared in previous segments. Another one of mine is the Multiplicity-preneur revenue factor made easy. It is the basics of repositioning your empire for revenue recognition as a multiplicity entrepreneur, and it is a journal planner. And then we have Joseph's publication, and I always have to say I love this, and I had the opportunity to be a contributor to this publication. But it is brand building with multiplicity entrepreneurship made easy, how to create multiple streams of revenue with multifaceted branding, and it is an action planner. And then another one of my publications that Joseph contributed the forward to is called The Conscious Multiplicity Branding Factor for New Era Entrepreneurs. It is a basic introduction to multifaceted branding for next level business success. It is an action planner. And then a companion resource to this particular that particular action planner is the Conscious Multiplicity Marketing Factor Made Easy, and it is an intentional multi-level marketing journal planner for multiplicity entrepreneurial success. And then, as mentioned, before, I want to reiterate this, is that the Main Thing publication is definitely one that you need to have, because you've got to be intentional about the task management aspect, because if all of these other aspects are good, of course, and we know the spiritual foundation is one that you have to have, but if you don't know how to make the main thing in the moment, you have a lot of different components to work with, but ultimately you won't know how to really effectively, execute and move even in your spiritual alignment. and move in the domination factor. So you always got to know what is the main thing in the moment, even as it relates to the spiritual alignment and all the different components. So you need to know how to make the accurate shifts, and keep all of this, in perspective as it relates to your branding, as it relates to your lifestyle. So all of these are important, but definitely, the main thing, you definitely have to know that. So Joseph, before we conclude, I would love to hear your final thoughts around anything.
Well, what you have just presented to us is an absolute business education as well as business scholarship for those
Oh,
that are at that level. This is phenomenal information and very needed information right now in terms of your business development and domination on your journey in your business process. One major takeaway that I want people to understand as a result of all that has been presented is that your business is your calling and
yes.
you must treat your business like your calling.
Mm-hmm.
That goes back to your spiritual alignment. You really
Yes.
have to consciously align and connect
Mm.
with the source of what is bringing forth your business model, your business presentation, and your business
Yes.
goals.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most important thing in order for you to move forward in the next
Yes.
steps and the next aspects of your business to domination. So,
Mm-hmm.
AliNICOLE, you have laid out a spectacular process
Thank
for us
you.
to follow. And again, I just want to make sure that I encourage these business owners to go back and listen to part one and part two, as well as going and purchasing those other books and products that have been mentioned, because
Mm-hmm.
each of them speak to different aspects of your business that you're going to need along your journey. So thank
Mm.
you so much for that presentation.
Oh, thank you. I am always just blown away by your words and so touched, and always, of course, so appreciative, of what you share, and also too just how you view the overall process and your belief in my calling, in bringing forth these works, in this way. So my special thanks to you always, because I enjoy having you with me. And as I always say, you're kind of a trigger mechanic too that gets me going. And so the listeners have Joseph a lot of times to thank for some of the overflow that comes out. For sure. Just my passion, I can share about these concepts on so many different levels. But I do understand that when laying the foundation, you only need so much, but then sometimes you do need a little bit more just to disrupt and expand. Because the more we can expand the awareness of people, the less they'll be able to contract. And as you know, Joseph, the saying that once the brain expands into a certain dimension, it's kind of impossible for it to shrink back down. The only
That's
thing
right.
is that when people don't get into action, they seem to lose what they don't use. And see, that's the thing. If you don't use it, it will appear that you've lost it, but the expansion still remains there in consciousness. But sometimes it takes a little bit more to work it out to get back in there. But that's why we want people to actually get into action and to be these co-creators and the authorypreneurs, of your life and the authors of your experience, so that the more that you're in and planning, master planning, working these things out yourself, then you're ultimately going to come into your greater expansion. And that is what's going to be the dominating factor, because it really is not so much about dominating the industry as I'm the top authority and the top voice. Honestly, it is really about who is bringing the higher divine expression, because that is the domination. Who has worked out their quote unquote salvation with fear and trembling, so to speak? Who has worked the inner game out to now they've dug up the God in them as the treasure, and now that God presence displays itself in the marketplace as this unique divine expression. That is ultimately what the domination factor is about. Is as many people that we can get showing up in their truth of their existence, that is what overtakes the marketplace and brings it into the new standards and the new format to create this new world and this new marketplace. So, on that note, so that I don't start on a sermon here, um, we are we're going to close this out, and I do hope that you found this conversational training to be extremely beneficial. And of course, we are looking forward to bringing more trainings, of this nature to you, so that you can have the evolution of building upon and building upon what we've been laying. So you have exactly what you need to be the absolute best. So we send you away with many blessings, and thank you so much for participating and being a part of this experience.